Hi, everyone. Gracias, Tiana. And I want to first thank Maida, Anthony, Walter, and Anna for finding me and inviting me. You guys really can't hear me? Oh, there you go. Wow, it's so low. Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Lift it up. Just tip it up. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. It's a privilege and pleasure to be here. As Tiana mentioned, I just defended my dissertation last week. And yes, I still am, anyways, still processing that whole experience. My presentation today represents an initial step in developing further the exploration of Afro-Cuban aesthetics, affect, and the music-dance relationship in Cuban dance culture that forms the core of that project. So this is this is a new thing that I'm doing today. It's a little adventurous for me, and I hope you like it. I've been hearing a lot of sort of resonant ideas over the course of the day so far, so that's exciting for me. And even if you hate it, I look forward to your responses and questions and challenges. So let me start.
Darkness?
No, this is just actually an audio file. Thank you, though. And I got to get to. Sorry. My hands are really cold and I can't make it go where I want it to go. Drums echo and resonate around the room, their low and high timbres invading our joints. The crisp sounds of clave and palitos cut through piercingly, while the softer rattle of the chequere fades slightly into the background. The drummers' faces and bodies are tense, focused, and resilient. They lean back and glance at one another as they respond to the lead singer's calls. They lean in as they embellish patterns on their instruments. We, the dancers, bounce and pulse in unison, right, center, left, center. Our chests rock forward and back over the spring-like action in our knees. We're singing, too. Hoarse voices wash over us from the side of the room, and we respond. Bellies and chests tight, throats open, belting over the sound of drums, movement, and breath. We breathe hard with the exertion of dance movement and exhale harder in song. Cutting through and floating above this thick sonic kinetic tapestry, the voice of our teacher, Tiana Álvarez, incites and guides us. Do you guys know Kati? She teaches in LA. As the collective sense of groove locks in, the temperature in the room starts to rise. Soon we are all sweating. I begin with the sonic kinetic social space of an Afro-Cuban dance class for a few reasons. First, from a methodological perspective, this is the kind of space where my experience with and research into Cuban dance culture began. Not specifically the space we just heard. That recording is from a weekend dance intensive hosted by Tiana Álvarez in Los Angeles last summer, but a space like it in which a teacher directs musicians and dancers, enacting performance, pedagogy, and a sort of communal spiritual exploration all within a single event. Second, rumba is a secular dance that is laden with borrowings from Afro-Cuban religious beliefs and practices and is often performed following a ceremony. Even when it's performed independently from the religious context, those references, lyrical, musical, gestural, and otherwise, are ubiquitous. As Afro-Cuban folkloric practices circulate beyond their original religious and community contexts, embraced outside of Cuba by non-Cubans and non-religious practitioners enamored of their aesthetic, affective, and spiritual content, the dance class becomes an important hybrid space in which elements of deeper practices are selectively reproduced and translated, taking on new life and sometimes new meanings. Finally, the focus of my talk today, el Molleo, and I have to apologize for the bad spelling in the program. That was my fault. Molleo, as it is on the title page of my presentation, and you will hear many times in the next 15 minutes, is a fundamental element of Afro-Cuban dance aesthetics. But as a discrete concept, it too owes its coinage and dissemination to the pedagogical setting. As Hernández emphasizes, when you actually learn this from someone who's not a teacher, who learned it on the street, people are not saying, Molleo, Molleo, Molleo. It's a technical thing we came up with in order to teach. But way back, our ancestors were not saying Molleo when they were dancing El Legua. So the pedagogical space is one with which we need to contend, as we've also heard so eloquently from Michelle, as we consider the circulation of Afro-Cuban dance culture and aesthetics. Afro-Cuban ancestors who preserved in their minds and bodies and through their labor the thriving dance culture we witness today didn't say Molleo as they danced, but they executed its motion as an integral part of their steps. The Molleo is a constant springing motion in the dancer's knees, a physicalization of the musical pulse she shares with the drummers, which is then echoed in the shrugging of her torso and shoulders. Variants of the Molleo mobilize the dances of Cuba's Lucumí and Congo religious traditions, as well as the secular rumba, even shaping the aesthetics of Cuban casino, often through Afro-Cuban borrowings. This paper examines the rhythms, aesthetics, and meanings of the Molleo in its folkloric manifestations, ultimately considering its impact and uses within the context of contemporary popular dance culture. The Molleo starts in your knees. As Hernández, I'm going to try not to do it while I'm talking. As Hernández explains, it's basically like the arching of the spring, but the spring never extends completely. This springing motion is constant, aligned with the musical pulse. It's a downward motion, drawing the body toward the earth and bouncing back up from its lowest point. This downward motion, initiated in the knees, produces natural repercussions in the upper body. The torso rocks forward and back with a slight shrug in the shoulders, like a grandma's rocking chair. That's Kati's coinage. Related subsidiary waves undulate through other joints like the hips and appendages like the arms. This fluid rhythmic chain of kinetic events depends on a sense of integration, connecting the lower limbs to the rest of the body through the torso, combined with a natural relaxation that allows waves of energy to produce motion. The Molleo is the dancer's most fundamental connection to the music, her rhythmic key. In a thick sea of polyrhythms, the Molleo anchors the dancer to the sometimes elusive musical pulse. As its echoes ripple up the spine and outward through the joints and limbs, the Molleo produces its own set of rhythmic accents, connected to the original pulse in the knees, but displaced in space and time. The Molleo thus enhances the rhythmic content of the dance event, engaging with it in the dancer's body, amplifying and sometimes contradicting sounded musical accents. But it's also the key to her individual flavor. As the Molleo unlocks and moves through the dancer's joints, it releases her natural flavor and groove. For example, rather than forcing an extension in the hips, the Molleo, in combination with alternating footwork, results in a natural swinging motion. This opens the door for personal expression, as well as for the interpretation of canonical figures. As Gilset Mora says, the Molleo is super important in all the Afro-Cuban dances. Depending on which orisha you're interpreting, it gives you the swing and energy that you need to dance. The Molleo facilitates the kinetic interpretation and projection into space of each orisha or Afro-Cuban deity, along with his or her distinct personalities and attributes. So I'll take this opportunity to give you the faces of my two main interlocutors today. Kati Hernández, who teaches in LA, and Gilset Mora, who teaches in New York City, as well as, I'm not sure, I didn't quite know my audience, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the orishas, just so you know what I'm talking about. Though you probably already do. Cuba is home to several ethnic groups of African origins, each of which maintains religious practices that include the worship of ancestors and deities. Among these, the Yoruba pantheon of Nigerian origin that includes Elegua, Yemaya, Ochun, Chango, and others is probably the best known. The lesser-known Arara pantheon of Dahomean origin bears many similarities with that of the Yoruba, as well as important differences. Within each system, each deity has its own characteristics, from associated colors and numbers to rhythms, songs, and life stories known as roads. So in the Yoruba pantheon, Chango is the deity of thunder and lightning and of dance and drums. He carries a double-edged axe and wears red and white. And actually, Gilset used to dance Chango, but he doesn't have any pictures available, so I used his Elegua picture to show you his face. The comparable santo in the Dahomean pantheon is called Ebioso. While Ebioso's general characteristics are similar to those of Chango, his musical and choreographic specificities are distinct. Similarly, Yemaya, the Yoruba deity of the oceans, mother of fishes, wears royal blue and white and uses a silver comb. She is corresponded in Cuba's Dahomian culture by Afro-Cuban. These deities' characteristics and stories are communicated not only through mimetic choreographies, but also through the basic execution of the Molleo. As Mora explains, the Molleo for each santo or each dance is not different. The Molleo is the same. What changes is the charisma and swing of each movement. The distinct in-character execution of the Molleo in each case is the foundation that allows the dancer to interpret and project Afro-Cuban deities and their different manifestations for and with others. Each distinct version of the Molleo also produces a unique affective result in the dancer herself. For example, in a conversation with Hernández, I began to describe the way in which the deep knee bends and hip articulations of Rumba's Molleo fostered in me feelings of vigor and sensuality when I danced. Hernández agreed, then added by way of contrast the case of Afro-Cuban, the Arara deity of the seas, the Yemaya from the Dahomian tradition. When interpreting Afro-Cuban, the brisk, non-stop Molleo in the dancer's knees ripples up through the torso to relax shoulders, causing them to bounce up and down. And Constance talked about this, the shoulder emphasis in Arara dance. The result is a bubbly feeling grounded in the Molleo's repeated downward motion, but light and almost unsettled as it flows upward through the body. So I have a quick excerpt of an Afro-Cuban choreography that was performed about 5 years ago by the New York-based group Oyu Oro, which is directed by Danis La Mora Perez, not to be confused with Gilsat Mora. She's from Santiago, from Kutumba. Oh no, come on. I can't just click it and it'll go. This is like the old-fashioned way. Right along, sorry. I know we want to watch all the music and dance examples for way longer than we can. It's the beauty of our work. How do we make sense of a fundamental dance position whose whole point is flexion and mobility? In this essential quality, the Molleo calls, to my mind at least, I just put calls to mind, but really it's a personal connection, I think, capoeira's ginga, the side-to-side motion through which capoeirista maintains constant protection and preparation in the game, ready to react or strike from any position at any moment. These Afro-diasporic mobile stances invert the arguably more common conceptualization of choreographic movement in which, after executing a step or combination, the dancer ceases to move and returns to stillness. In the Molleo, stasis is motion, and this is fundamental. Alongside its mobility is the Molleo's malleability. There is no ideal Molleo. The best one is that which best expresses your flavor, interprets the character at hand, or somehow encapsulates the moment, capturing it in your strong joints and amplifying it for those gathered. The Molleo's self-generating heat energy, a kind of ache, and its impactful mobility conjure images of a folk character collected and recounted by Zora Neale Hurston, High John the Conqueror, the Hope Bringer. As, sorry, get some water. Sorry. As Hurston relates, first off, he was a whisper, a will to hope, a wish to find something worthy of laughter and song. Then the whisper put on flesh. High John the Conqueror's sign was no parading drum shout. It was an inside thing to live by. So High John the Conqueror emerged from inside, from breath into sound, patrolling the land in protection and inspiration. His capacity for escape was matched by his power to impact the world around him. Where there was no way, he could make a way, and when he walked, his footsteps sounded across the world. Nathaniel Mackey leans on Hurston and High John, among other figures, as he develops his argument about the privileging of the verb in Black Atlantic culture, the mobility and fugitivity that allow for cultural survival and prosperity in the face of extreme adversity. I invoke them here as a way of understanding how Molleo works to empower an individual body, establishing an internal connection in, sorry, I wrote this wrong, to those around it, and then to expand on that power outward in rhythmic and affective waves that exceed their container. The Molleo is not predetermined. It may feel powerful, hopeful, and mobile, but it is fundamentally neutral, ready. Its pregnant neutrality defies predefinitions, binaries, and paradigms. And here I'm dipping into Barth's formulation of the neutral. For Barth, the quest to define the neutral is not disciplinary, embracing as it does language, discourse, gesture, and the body. But it is often ethical, as he says, the discourse of the good choice, or of the non-choice, or of the lateral choice, discourse of the other of choice, the other of conflict, of paradigm, and so on. He adds, for me, it is a manner, a free manner, to be looking for my own style of being, present to the struggles of my time. I would argue that the Afro-Cuban Molleo is precisely this, present mobility, pregnant neutrality, visible ripples through the dancer's body, rolling along the spine, pulsating in the chest, and culminating in a shrug of the shoulders, a flick of the wrist, or a toss of the head. It is an enactment of life and of liveliness, bouncing knees ready to jump, pulsing chest, undulating torso flowing with red blood. Of that liveliness, the most important element seems to be the potential it represents. Life, in the sense, is not only about what is, but what is being and what can be. All this potential is necessarily subsumed within a subtle but teeming neutrality, partially hidden, yet coiled, ready to spring into action. The Molleo's rhythms and aesthetics are not confined to Afro-Cuban religious and traditional practices. When I pressed her on its integration into the movements of contemporary dance cultures like casino or timba, Hernández paused. I understood her hesitation. It's a little bit like, if you got it, you got it. If it's there, it's there. If not, do something else, you know. But there's something fundamental, ubiquitous, and elusive about it. Then she said, you can apply the Molleo into timba as well and create moves that people will try to copy. This is super interesting. I didn't unpack it here, but I want to come back to it. You look different. Oh, I'm going to move my knees in the Molleo. It could be the move itself that you can apply in a step, or if you're doing your salsa suelta, in other words, you're doing dancing salsa footwork alone, or in lines with others, you can add moves that actually have Molleo, as for example, a basic rumba step or an Afro-Cuban step. She continued, if you're dancing with a partner, you can actually add the grandma's rocking chair that will give you a little groove in your upper body. So I'm going to move a little beyond those descriptions, and thank you, perfect. I want and close with an example of the Molleo deployed in a popular dance music setting. This last example is going to sound a little different than the other music we've been listening to today. It's Cubaton. It's a group that's very popular these days, Los Cuatro. And I just started watching this video a couple days after I submitted my abstract to Meira, and I thought, this will be perfect. Los Cuatro combine elements of timba, funky, highly syncopated and interactive Cuban dance music with reggaeton. You hear the constant programmed cucun cacun rhythm of reggaeton throughout. The rhythmic fabric is a little tamer than that of timba, with less displacement and overall complexity, and there's a lot of consistency in production in the group's overall sound. In other words, you can hear the studio. The blended final mix, the hollow, breathy choruses that come right on cue in each number, and the controlled squeak and shimmer of a small horn section all orient their sound towards reggaeton. I'm going to skip the rest of this because I think I'm running out of time. Ask me later if you want to know more. The video opens with a quote. The video we're going to see opens with a quote of the iconic keyboard riff from Foreigner's The Final Countdown. The band, we're not going to see that part, sorry. The band, I'm just telling you about it. The band kicks in at full throttle, as is their wont, and it's on. I'm just going to show this to you, and then if there's time, I'll talk about it a little bit. And now it probably would be good to dim the lights a bit, if that can be done. So Los Cuatro, we're going to see the band. There was a breakdown, and now they're building back up. Here we go, the Molleo. You can see them both. So I would like to watch more of that, but I know we're going to run out of time. So this is just, I think is it okay to finish what I have? The band just started, the band's kicked off with a bang, and they're still feeling the impact of that, but they need to build the momentum to keep it going, and to reach that peak that they're aiming for in the show. So I'm skipping around a little bit. The idea I wanted to, this Molleo then is insistent, it's urgent, as if to say, let's go, let's go, let's go. The breakdown happened, the band is building up, the crowd is kind of with them, but they're like, let's go, let's move it, and still using that same motion. Molleo, 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 I would argue it's at the heart of this aesthetic and a central function of this dance culture. It balances tension with release, ensures mobility and integration, begins at a single person's core and projects outward. Willing its energy into larger spaces, seeking out and finding resonance and mimesis. This is no parading drum shout. It moves in the world as if sorry, this line makes me emotional. As if the world were a singing drum.